Central government has pushed in all states. The scheme is saying that you have to install smart meter. The smart meter should be prepaid, and the smart meter should be installed by private companies, and the smart meter should be operated by private companies. But which government can say so? Government imposed the rule to import coal mandatory. So if you use the domestic coal, the cost per unit might be around 2 rupees. If it is imported coal, the cost may rise up to 6-7 rupees.
Hello and welcome to Left Lens. Today we have Comrade Sudip Dutta with us. He's a permanent invitee to the Central Committee of the CPIM. He's also one of the National Secretaries of the CITU, Center of Indian Trade Unions. Comrade Sudip, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Welcome to Left Lens. Comrade, you've been working with issues related to the electricity sector in the country. As far as India is concerned, the electricity sector is a hot topic. We have issues ranging from the so-called losses of the distribution companies, privatisation of DISCOMs, the introduction of smart meters, rising tariffs that consumers have to pay for, the gap between production and capacity. So let's talk about some of these issues. Let's start with the consumer, the person who is actually paying for all the costs. We are seeing that tariffs in the electricity is increasing almost day by day. Why do you think this is happening?
I will come to that answer. But first, let me tell that, as you were telling, that distribution companies, state distribution companies, are in loss. The thing is that up to mid-80s, there was no provision of making profit for the distribution companies. So the first thing we should keep it in mind that the change in the political perspective, the philosophical perspective of utilizing the distribution utilities as a company and as a profit-making company, we are opposed to that because it is against the directive principle of our constitution. Our constitution wants to provide basic amenities to the citizen of India. So first of all, the idea of loss or profit for amenities like health, education, electricity, water, it should not come in that way. Number two is, if you are talking about in a very technical manner, why the tariff is increasing. See, India's still now the major utility, that electricity supply comes from the thermal generators. And thermal generators means India, it is mostly coal dominated. And for coal, the problem started when government imposed the rule to import coal mandatory. So if you use the domestic coal, the cost per unit might be around 2 rupees. If it is imported coal, the cost may rise up to 6-7 rupees. So if you are blending 10% or 15%, it creates a huge impact on the entire tariff. The second thing is, one is imported coal, and you must know, we all know that the fraudulent coal import mechanism. Like one ship, it started from Indonesia. It was containing around 80,000 ton of coal. The price of the coal at Indonesia was $1.9 million. When it reached India, the price shoot up to $4.3 million. So there was investigation. And it was found that the coal was sold over the sea 3 times. These 3 are shell companies. So what I am trying to tell is that there is a huge fraudulent process involved in the coal import, coal blending. And this is a major reason for the day-by-day tariff increase. Number 2 is about the freight charges. If coal costs around 30% of the tariff of electricity, then freight charge costs around 40%. There is no government policy to reduce down the freight charges. Freight means mainly it is railway.
Yes, transportation.
But if you see that the railway, the consumer freight is actually compensated by the consumer fare is actually compensated by the freight of coal and other goods. And over and above that, there are some GSTs and other things. So basically, the input cost of electricity, it is raising. It is making an impact on the tariff. Other issues are there, like for renewable, introducing renewable, what they have done, they have said that the transmission lines which are used for renewable, the wheeling charge, that means the charge of the line should be free.
Yes.
So that burden, because if you are containing electricity, then there is a cost. If you are constructing transmission line, then there is a cost. That burden is shifted to the coal generating stations. So it is creating impact on the coal generating station. Very interestingly, these things are not generally discussed. You see that solar produce electricity for 8 hours. Mostly, you can say, roughly. So the rest of the 16 hours, the entire utility remains idle. That also incur more fixed cost to the tariff. So various issues are there, and most importantly, central government, the electricity is in state list, but central government is making all the policies so that
Decisions are
they are made by the central government. So the states are not being able to provide enough subsidy to the consumers. So subsidy is reducing, cross subsidy is reducing, cost of the production is increasing, and central government is pushing continuously state government to the dynamic market. That means earlier there was long-term agreements where the cost of the electricity was fixed. Now every day they are asking to go to the market.
Yes.
And in market, you will be very shocked to know that in 2023 June there was a notification from central government that one unit may be sold at 50 rupees. One unit may be sold at 50 rupees. That is high priced market. They got high priced area market. So if a utility is purchasing electricity from a market at 50 rupees or 20 rupees, 30 rupees, naturally either they have to increase the tariff or they will be in loss. So it's a very serious situation for the state utilities as well as the consumers. So it's a policy issue, basically.
So you said this rising tariff is a policy issue. How do you think that this rise can be prevented, if not rolled back? Do you think it is even possible?
It's possible. That is, I am telling that generally, if I start discussion with this line, people will be a little bit hesitant to listen because these are all policy issues. But these policy issues are affecting people. So starting from the coal policy, India has the 4th largest coal reserve of the world. So if India develops its own coal capacity, and if you see in Parliament, Ministry of Power is saying that there is coal deficiency. Ministry of Coal is saying that we have ample coal. If you need, we can produce. So there is a contradiction between the ministries of the government itself. So these are all policy issues. But people, only electricity employees or the workers, they cannot reverse the policy.
Yes.
Only if people very consciously come for their rights on the street. And it becomes that I will come later, that it becomes a resistance or popular resistance. Then only we can roll back. And the farmer struggle, the historic farmer struggle is an example. They passed the electricity farm laws and they were pushing for the electricity amendment bill, but they could not.
They could not. Yeah.
So only people resistant can do so.
Okay, so we'll come back to that as you said. See, we discussed rising costs, and what the company says that if we have smart meters, this will help to arrest the rise in cost because wastage of electricity can be curbed. Also, faultiness in calculating the consumption, that can be checked. So this will essentially benefit the customer or the consumer, and hence they're all pushing for smart meters. Why do you think, because as far as I understand, CITU is opposed to this. Is that not opposing technology? Why are you opposing it?
See, generally, always there is a blame that left are opposing technology.
Yes.
But very firmly, I can say that left are the social group, political group, which are most progressive about the inclusion of technology in all aspects. Because it is about the development of the productive force. Now, the general balance thing is that it is opposing smart meter. What we have said? We have said that prepaid Totex model smart meter we are opposing.
Yes.
What is Totex model? The government, you will see the scheme that central government has pushed in all states. The scheme is saying that you have to install smart meter. the smart meter should be prepaid, and the smart meter should be installed by private companies, and the smart meter should be operated by private companies. But which government can say so? The central government is saying to the state government that you have to ensure that the meter is installed by private companies and it is operated by private companies. We are opposing that. We are saying that simply it doesn't have anything to the efficiency of the distribution. Now, if you come to calculation, generally India's average loss is 14 to 15%. Within 14 to 15%, the transmission distribution loss, that is basically the technical loss in the wire or the transformer,
Yes.
it is around 10%. So 4 to 5% is the loss that is we call commercial loss, that is due to the collection of bill and all.
Yes.
Any DISCOM you take, the major loss is originating from the non-payment of the bill from the government offices, then the commercial, and due to this cumulative non-payment, DISCOMs are borrowing,
Yes.
and DISCOMs are borrowing, they have to give interest to that borrowing. So this is the main reason of loss. The domestic loss is very minimal in that realm. And if you calculate the amount, smart meter is, they are saying that it is around 10,000 rupees. Say, many states the tender is coming 12,000 rupees, something 14,000 rupees also. 10,000 rupees. So 10,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees for 6 years. So per year it is 2,000 rupees. 2,000 rupees additional cost. Generally 70% of Indian household, their monthly bill is around 150 rupees. So if you are putting 2,000 rupees the meter cost, then it is actually doubling your bill. So you are trying to put 100% increase in the bill in the name of increasing efficiency. How it makes any sense? We are saying that if you want to do that, you go for the government offices or the commercial or industrial, you calculate that because those are the main major consumers.
Small retail consumers shouldn't be here.
Yes. And the second part is that it should not be given for operation, it should not be given to the private players. This is very serious. Why I am telling this? Because these are some technical things. Because now government is going for virtual power purchase agreements. Entire process of power they are trying to put in virtual these platforms, and there will be speculative investment over that, and this speculation will depend upon the data, and every time your real-time data will be taken by the private players. Those are Adani's, Tata's, Torrents, they will be actually running the virtual market, so there will be huge scope of manipulation. We are not saying, World Bank is saying, World Bank document is saying that if a central government takes, try to use it as an arm twisting instrument, they can use it. Initially the smart meter was installed in the pilot project in all states. It was installed by the state governments. So we are saying if there is any need, let the state decide. Let them assess the situation and accordingly they can install. But it should not be a mandatory private operated system.
Makes sense.
You hinted upon, the major aspect through which distribution companies, DISCOMs, incur losses. Now, there is this whole narrative about DISCOMs incurring losses, and hence we have to privatize to make them to encourage competition. This will not only help DISCOMs because there will be competition and services will get better, and the services becoming better will also mean that the consumer gets better return for his money, better services. What do you think about this?
See, that is the general formulation is that privatization will provide better services. That is the general formulation that you are talking about. You see, in anywhere in India, in any rural area, the private company is eager to take the distribution. They are not. In any hilly area, in any rough terrain, they are not. Where they are interested, Delhi. Where they are interested, Calcutta. Where they are interested, Mumbai. It's simple. Because the infrastructure has been created already by the government players, and it is a highly revenue generating area. So if you enter, you need not do anything. And if you recall the Electricity Amendment Bill 2022, why we were opposing that? There was a clause that if a private player wants, if it appears to the regulatory commission and ask for parallel licensing, the state utility has no right to deny it.
Yes.
They have to provide their established infrastructure to the private player. And if there is any fault in the infrastructure, then the state utility has to compensate. It can be passed in any parliament, like in a civilized democratic country. So, private players are only interested to utilize the existing establishment. If you recall that Odisha, what happened? Odisha was the first state, pioneer state in privatization. In 1996, 97, they had given the distribution utility to a US company. I think AES is the name of the US company. 99, the cyclone came. They stopped working.
Yes.
The government has to revoke the entire privatization process by 2005. Then they established the entire network. In 2020, again they handed over to Tata. So when a disaster will come, they will go away. You have to rebuild, reconstruct, make it operational. Then you have to again give it to
All the cost will be borne by the
public, and then you
give
have to give it to Tata. Even I am saying in Odisha now, 50% funding of Tata is done by, this is 49-51. So major infrastructure development funding is done by the Odisha government itself.
Yes.
So basically it is nothing but in the electricity term it is called cherry picking. They are eyeing for the most revenue generating area,
Yes.
and the rest of the area should be given to the state DISCOMs, and state DISCOMs will be under
They'll be
more
losses.
financial burden, again loss. So basically it will snatch away the right to electricity to many of the people.
All right.
And the tariff in all private utility is much higher than the state DISCOMs.
You said that, state DISCOMs, they have to spend all this money on creating the infrastructure. But you see, it has been well acknowledged that India's capacity to generate electricity is much higher than the actual electricity that is being generated in the country. Now there is a lot of talk about, India becoming a Viksit Bharat. The targets have been set for 2047. One is in the electricity sector. 100 gigawatts of electricity using nuclear power. How do you think this is going to play out?
See, that is a very important point you have raised. That around 480 gigawatt is our installed capacity, and our demand is 250 gigawatt.
Yes.
That is half. You can tell roughly. You can tell half. But we are like very. Sometimes we are in deficit. Sometimes we are reaching with a very tough way. So basically the thing is that India's installed capacity is not utilized. So government of India should focus on that. Instead of that, it is increasing every moment the installed capacity. It is not helping India. Why it is not helping? Number one point, if you see that the major increase in the installed capacity for last couple of years was in solar or renewable sector. 97% of solar installation belongs to private players. So basically India, 70% of the installation in the thermal was belonging to the government players. So basically from public sector you are transforming to the private sector. Private sector is producing and they are selling, and there is obligation to purchase renewable power from the private sector and this power. But there is no development of storage. Government should focus on storage because you are producing much in the daytime. At the night time there is fluctuation.
Yes.
Then the burden goes over the thermal generators. Government should plan on storage, and storage, India best storage is pump storage project, that is PSPs.
Yes.
That you make some reservoir and at the daytime you pump the water, and at the night time you can get it. Government is not focusing on that. Why? What we are trying to tell, that this increase in the installed capacity is to sell electricity even to the other countries, but not to fulfill the domestic need. The domestic need will only be fulfilled if the utilization of the installed capacity is properly done. Now you have told about 100 gigawatt. You see that in 2010 the Civil Liability on Nuclear Damage Act it was passed, and there was a clause that the supplier of the reactor or the machine will also be liable for any disaster.
Yes.
Now government is trying to do away with the
Dilute
clause.
that, yes.
Why? Because there are players in US, there are players in France who want to invest, but they don't want
They
to
don't
take
want
any
this
liability.
clause, yes.
So basically, India is going to be a producer for those countries. India doesn't need, every year the demand growth is around 10%, you can say. So India doesn't need 1000 gigawatt demand. If you recall the G20 summit, there was a project that is one sun, one earth, one grid. So basically, they are now trying to connect the grid globally. India will produce with all risk, nuclear and all other form of energies. It will sell to the world, but India's need will not be fulfilled because there is no proper reservoir policy. India is having much more installed capacity than it needs. The only thing is that we have to ensure that the installed capacities are properly utilized. And this 100 gigawatt thing that you told about the nuclear, that I already told, that the civil liability on the Nuclear Damage Act that gave some protection to the people of India by putting a supplier liability. If any disaster happen, then the liability will be put upon the supplier. Now the government wants to do away with that clause. It means that now the manufacturer from USA or France or other countries, they will send their reactors and their instruments to India, and if any disaster happen, that will be actually borne by the people of India. So this much of clean energy, quote unquote clean energy, actually that we are anticipating that if you recall that the G20 summit call, that one sun, one earth, one grid, they are now trying to connect the grid of the world. And it might happen that India is becoming a hub of green energy producer to sell to the global north, other countries, whereas the entire risk, burden, land, occupation, everything will be taken from
taken away from the people of
India.
Yes.
So we need to have a policy to actually utilize our own capacity. We think that it is not necessary to rapidly enhance our installed capacity in that pace that government of India through private players with subsidies are now pushing.
All right. One thing that is very clear in what you have said is that there is clearly privatization of profit and socialization of losses that's happening in the electricity sector. We have the experience, and you hinted about this earlier on, of how the farm laws were repealed by the farmers and the agriculture workers who protested against them. You were clearly pointing to policy decisions that is causing all these issues in the electricity sector in the country. How do you think there can be a turnaround? Can there be a turnaround? Is it possible to repeal these policies?
See, we can claim that the electricity workers have defeated the government time and again, even this government. After the 370 was withdrawn from Jammu and Kashmir, immediately next day they went for unbundling the Jammu and Kashmir utility.
Yes.
And even in the night there was resistance, and then the central government, they had to step back. They tried for privatization in Haryana, and there was massive strike. They had to set back. Then they attempted in Uttar Pradesh, but they were pushed back. They attempted in Maharashtra. Today when I am sitting with you, in Maharashtra from last night, indefinite strike has started. I will discuss about that. So basically, what I am trying to tell, that this sector workers, because they are the most strategic workers of the modern production system. So if they go for strike, any government, any authority, they are bound to come to a discussion, come to a this thing. The only thing is that the number of electricity workers are reducing due to the technological development. Now what we are trying to do, we are trying to bring more and more people. Actually, if you see that 140-50 crore Indian, all are electricity consumers.
Yes.
So until and unless we can bring the consumers to people to the agenda against privatization for the right of energy, for the right of electricity, for the energy security of our country, for the energy sovereignty of our country. It's a political struggle.
Yes.
What we are trying to make sense that it's a political struggle and people should be brought into the struggle. Initially, those all blockades will be there. These are all technical issues or employee related issues. But our experience in Chandigarh, we fought with our entire strength. If you see the privatization of the distributions, they initially attempted to the state utilities. They failed. Then they jumped to the UT utilities, that is Union Territory Utilities. First, they privatized Daman and Diu, that is a highly profiteering electricity distribution. They privatized. Then they came to Chandigarh. We registered for 5 years, but finally it was privatized on 1st February of this year. If you see Chandigarh, the annual profit of the DISCOM is 250 crore. When they put on bid for privatization, the central government union territory means that LG, the base price was 174 crore.
Less than the
Annual profit. We asked that you go for a proper audit. We made an audit. It was the total asset is more than 25,000 crore. They sold it at 800 crore. Now, for 310 days, resistance is going on in UP. Okay, government is trying to privatize distribution companies, 2 distribution companies which actually provide electricity to 42 districts of UP. Okay, and they are saying that it is in loss. 66,000 crore revenue has to be collected by those utility, and major share is from the government. Government should pay their share, then the utility is not in loss. So basically, they are trying to privatize, but resistance of the electricity employees. In Maharashtra, 3 years back, they initiated the parallel licensing by Adani. And due to the massive strike, along with the participation of the people, we could resist. Now again, they have started the parallel licensing process, Adani, Torrent, Tata. Now from yesterday night, the strike has started. What I am trying to say, that to fight against the monopoly capital, we are not having a lot of unions in those industries, but their aggressive intrusion into the public utility, if can be stalled, then it can put a bigger fight against the monopoly capital, against the loot of the people of India, the wealth and the asset of India. So only with the help and the solidarity and the support and the active participation of different layers of different strata of the producing classes, farmers who are the main stakeholder of the electricity, and a poor section of the working class, middle class, all should come on the discussion, struggle related to the policies. And now we have started forming electricity employee consumer associations. All across the country we are now forming that. So this is an idea. We are starting from electricity employee consumer association. Then we will extend it to all form of services and their consumers. And we will try to elevate this struggle towards a struggle for from like our capacity to consume to right to consume. So it is a struggle to politicize the mass as well as to bring the workers and mass together. So this is the path we are imagining. Let's hope that the struggle will bring brighter days for us.
All right, Comrade Sudip, I hope that your struggles will emerge victorious. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. With that, it'll be a wrap of this week's Left Lens. Thank you.
Thank you.